It's not the first time that I've lost a drone. I have to push to the limit to review them, and sometimes have to take significant risks. I never done a video about a lost drone, as I found it to be a bit too much of a clickbait and material for drama queens. But in this experience I've learned a lot about mistakes that I've made, and I've found some very useful tools for rescuing a lost drone. If I knew them before, I would have probably found a couple of drones that I've lost in the past. So I decided to make a video about my experience, to underline some mistakes to avoid, and to show some useful tricks to help finding a lost drone. I believe it can be useful to many users. I received my brand new Mini 3 Pro a few days ago, and I was working on my second video about it, regarding footage quality, which I will publish in a few days. I was trying the low light capabilities. I had noticed before that in low light this model is very dark, so I was trying different settings, as I thought there might be something wrong. I have only one battery at the moment, as the Fly More combo is not available yet where I live. The battery was charging, but I wanted to catch the last bit of twilight before full night, so I decided to fire the drone up, even though the battery was just above half level. I had previously done some night footage in manual mode and the results were very disappointing, so this time I wanted to try the auto mode to see if some magic would happen. But as you can see, the footage is still extremely dark, even though it was not yet full night. But this is a matter for my next video about footage quality. As you can see from the screen recording, I took off with about 15 minutes of flying time, which is a bit too tight. Since I knew that I had reduced battery life, I took off and immediately started flying towards the target for my first clip, instead of waiting for the satellite to lock, which luckily generally happens in a very short time through the Mini 3. Therefore the home point was updated a bit farther away from my location, and this does not help when trying to land the aircraft in very dark conditions, as the best way to retrieve a drone for landing is to have an accurate on point and check the distance of the drone relative to it in the lower left part of the screen. After 3 very quick clips, I started bringing the birds back towards the nest. I noticed that Mount Etna right at that moment was putting up a show, and I was very tempted to shoot some very spectacular footage. But I decided to behave and bring the drone back, as I was running a bit short of battery. But I still had 6 minutes left, and I was not too far away. With any other drone I have no issue locating my position at this time at night, but with the Mini 3 everything was extremely dark and I could not even recognize my house. According to the distance the drone was supposed to be very close, but I could not see the flashing LEDs. As I said, my home point was not updated in the correct location. Time was really running short now, and I started to panic a bit. I decided to hit the return to home button to have quickly the drone as close as possible. But I had not yet checked the return to home altitude, which was set by default to a whopping 100 meters. Therefore it took a lot of time to ascend and then to bring it back down, further draining the batteries. At this point I did a last desperate bid to try and bring it back, but the battery was gone. A very useful way to help retrieve a lost drone is to make a screen recording of the mission, as the file will be saved in a mobile device which remains with you, while the footage shot with the drone is obviously not available anymore. The new controller with a built-in screen is very handy for that, as long as there is a memory disk insert. Slide on the screen with a finger twice downwards to access the quick menu and choose Screen Record. If you're using a controller with a remote device, you can install a screen recording app to do the job. I suggest always recording each mission, just in case. By watching the last seconds of the screen recording, I recognized the area, so I knew the general location of the poor little boy. Even in the case of an unknown location, it helps a lot to watch the screen recording together with Google Maps to have a good idea of the position. I knew that the area is a sort of jungle of thorny bushes. Pretty scary. But from the last seconds of footage, I could see that the camera had a clear view, therefore it was not buried deep down. Good. I could also see that there was some tall grass at about 5 to 10 meters from the camera, which will help once I will be in the location. In DJI Fly app, it's possible to access the log of all the flights made with your drone, even when the controller is not connected to the aircraft. Tap on Profile at the bottom in the middle, and in the next screen, tap on More on the bottom left. In the Flight Data Center, each individual mission made with a drone is listed. By clicking on a mission, we access the route traveled compared to the home point, on a regular map or on a satellite one. At the first light of the day, I started my rescue mission. The area where the drone has fallen was in a sort of canyon with overgrown, thorny vegetation. Very difficult to get there. Luckily, I have a couple of friends with nearby properties, so I went to see them and try to gain access. But it was impossible to get there because of the very steep terrain with a jungle of bushes. Find My Drone is a very useful feature and is available even when the drone is not connected to the remote controller. It shows the exact location of the drone on a street map or on a satellite one. It also shows the position of the remote controller relative to the drone, and this is extremely useful. If the drone is still on and there is some battery life left, it is possible to get the aircraft to beep and flash, which makes it very easy to find once we are nearby. But in my case, of course, the battery was dead. Once I finally managed to access the area, I could easily check the position and the distance of the drone, compared to the remote controller that I was carrying. Once I got to about 30 meters, or 100 feet, the area was covered by very steep, thorny bushes, so it was taking me a very long time to make my way through it. But I was able to check my position relative to the aircraft, so I could slowly get closer and closer. I double-checked the last few seconds of the screen recording of the last flight, and the camera had indeed some room around it, so I was confident that it was not buried. I could also identify the tall vegetation shown in the very last seconds of the footage, and that helped me to better locate the position. I ended up finding the poor little fellow sitting on top of the bushes. He was really scared and happy to see me. So, a very different video from what I normally do, but I hope it will help many users to avoid losing their drone and to help finding it if lost. Click on this link to watch my first impression about the Mini 3 Pro, and don't forget to hit the like button if you found this video interesting. Thanks.